Hi, so about a year and a half ago, I wrote a story, was invited to write a story for this anthology called From the Depths. And the story I wrote it while my girlfriend at the time, Heidi, was in the process of dying of cancer. And unfortunately, she was not able to read the story when it was published. Um, so um, I'm posting this video on the 1 year anniversary of her death, and the uh, the publishing house, the editors were kind enough to dedicate the book to her. If you are interested in the book, it does have an introduction by Ramsey Campbell. It has a lot of talented other writers in it. Um, and I'm just going to read this. I don't have great visuals. I'm not editing this. Um, but I just feel it's appropriate given the date. Missing pieces. The heat was nauseating. The big woman, the one driving, had to crack a window. At 55 miles per hour, the wind screamed into the tractor trailer's cab. After a few minutes of that fresh, chilled air, she felt better. The onboard GPS put the tractor trailer 2 hours south of Montpelier. Worse, it was 4 hours south of Montreal. She'd be arriving for load up an hour late. The young woman in the passenger seat zippered her coat closed. It ain't getting too cold in here, the big woman said. Not at all. Everything outside was black or purple. The trees were black. The snow was purple. The clear night sky was a mix between the two and dusted with stars. We're coming up on Junction 83 in a few minutes. I feel bad, the big woman said. Why? The big woman tapped the GPS console. Under temperature, the display read 12 degrees Fahrenheit, negative 11 degrees Celsius. That's why. And you'll be walking a few miles. If I wasn't behind schedule, I'd get you to the Starlight. I'm grateful you're doing this much. I'm pretty sure they're open all night. You sure you don't want to come to Montreal with me? It's like I said, I've got friends waiting for me in Killington. The big woman closed her window. She no longer pushed the speed limit. I don't like the idea of leaving you in the middle of nowhere. This is Vermont. Nothing happens here. I've been hitching since I was 15. I've had a few creeps try to feel me up. She leaned forward. From the side of her boot, she pulled a knife. She twisted the blade in the air. I can protect myself. People aren't the only things out there. Bears, wolves. The North American monkey-faced badger. She put the knife back into her boot. I've never heard of that. I'm fooling. It's a few miles. I'll be okay. If I had the time, I'd get you there. Damn, I feel bad. Why? You can't be more than 19 and I'm dumping you on an empty road. You shouldn't. The tractor trailer turned and climbed the exit ramp. At the top of the incline was a traffic stop. At the other side of the intersection was a ramp to return to the freeway. The truck halted. Air brakes hissed. The young woman opened her door. Frigid air clutched her leg. The sensation told her it was too cold to snow. I appreciate you getting me this far. You at least have a phone on you. The young woman unzipped her jacket. She took her phone out of her breast pocket. She shook it. The movement turned the screen on, and she returned it to her pocket. The big woman gestured with a hand chop. You go that way. Thanks, she said, climbing out. Feet on the ground, she zipped up her jacket. The truck pulled away. The wind hit her. The gust made her eyes water. She wrapped her scarf around her mouth and ears. The tractor trailer proceeded on the empty ramp to the highway. The young woman realized she was alone. The rumble of the engine faded. The creak of tree branches and waves of wind filled the void. Ice-hardened snow enveloped the roadside. She'd walk on it if a car came. For now, she traveled on the asphalt. The young woman put her hands inside her jacket pockets. They didn't warm. The jacket protected them from the wind. Clumps of snow falling on branches punctuated the breaks between the rushing wind. Trees, burdened with icicles, groaned. The infinite universe retained its position over her. In the spill of the Milky Way, a satellite tracked a straight line traversing the stars. As a child, she'd taken for granted the clarity of night in Vermont. Considering colleges in Manhattan changed that. The night sky in the city was a dirty pink haze. No stars, no clouds, no planes. It was a suggestion of night. It was without magic or wonderment or darkness. The road sloped down. Reaching the sign for Stonefield, Vermont, numbness infiltrated her face. The night air was getting to her. Beyond, the sign continued with more of the same. Trees, snow, obscurity. The woods were empty. No owls called. No wolves howled. No deer's eyes glowed in the gaps between the trees. After walking for what she assumed was another mile, there was a break in the trees. It opened to a snowed-over road marked with tire tracks joining the highway. A metal gate established a border. She considered climbing the gate and seeing if there was a house back there. She could make up a story, something like, my boyfriend got handsy, and when I said no, he left me on the side of the road. That bastard was going to let me die of hypothermia. Not knowing the area, it could also be a service entrance to a national park. Lost in a park would be death. Freezing on the road meant someone would find her. Freezing in the woods meant in spring she'd be barefoot. She kept on. After another mile, paranoia rattled her. The big woman said, you go that way. The big woman could be wrong. The big woman could have the directions backward. The big woman could have left her at the wrong exit. The big woman could get her kicks from knowing she was freezing to death. The big woman could be a serial killer who murdered people by giving them bad directions. Feeling sleepy, she wondered if tiredness was a symptom of hypothermia. She stopped. She said to herself, oh my God, I'm such an idiot. She unzipped her jacket. With a trembling hand, she removed her phone. The screen lit up. 54% charge, 2 bars of reception. The mountains were never good for getting a signal. She started with Google Maps. The Starlight Diner was 3.7 miles away. It was 2.2 miles from the center of town. According to Google, it was open 24 hours, which didn't make much sense unless their business came from the other direction. Her lips felt cold. Uber would be too expensive. She didn't want to call the police and ask for help. Not yet. On foot, 3.7 miles would take her an hour. She put her phone into her breast pocket. Zipping the coat, she picked up her pace. A humming started in her ears. It wasn't a human sound, more like a low electrical buzz, pure vibration. Her head felt as if it were cracking open. The sound increased, transforming into suffering. From the back of her eyes, everything was a burst of painful bright white. They'd done this routine so many times they worked in silence. The wife put the hay in the horses' stalls. The man mucked the stall first. She'd given the horses grains and water. He'd lead the next horse to a clean stall. She'd check if the horses needed new salt licks. They had many empty stalls. When his family arrived in Stonefield, they built this barn. His grandfather told him stories. Things like they came to Vermont with Samuel de Champlain, the first European in Vermont. His father denied these stories were true. The family didn't come over from England until the 1700s. There were turncoats in the American Revolution. His grandfather spent time in mental institutions. With the first horse fed, she stood in the stall's doorway. "Can we leave?" the wife said. He mucked. "And go where? And what about the horses?" "Where doesn't matter. We'll board the horses. What's more important?" "We don't know if there is a danger." "You don't think I'm more important?" Her arms crossed her chest. Her gray French braid rested on her shoulder. Her breath expanded, riding the cold air between them. "I'll wait and see if someone dies. Then, maybe, talk about leaving." "What if you die?" "Then I'm not worried about our health insurance bill, the water bill, the electric bill, taxes on the house, the cost of gas, or the cost of feeding the horses. I'll have no worries." 3 years in a row. In the later part of January, it starts. We need to leave. I can't believe we're having this conversation. What about Ghost? What about him? I've called around. We can board him. I don't want a dead horse. They won't die if we board them. We can't afford that. Like I said, I don't want a dead horse. But you're okay with a dead wife. He shoveled horse waste into a rusting wheelbarrow. "I don't think I can stay," she said. "You're leaving me? You're endangering my life. I'm not going to be bullied out of my ancestral home. If it's my time to go..." Her shoulders and head dropped. "I got snow on my shoe. I'm heading inside to change my socks." "Now? We're almost done." "I'm sure you'll be fine by yourself." He put the shovel head on top of the manure in the wheelbarrow. He followed her out of the stall. She headed for the barn doors. He headed for the next stall. Polaris snorted. His ears rotated forward as the human approached. A car engine turned over. He wondered where she was going. Ghost was the last horse he took to the field. Ghost, white and gray speckled, blended with the landscape. All the horses ran, warming themselves. He returned them to the barn after lunch. Inside, hunger kicked in. There was a note on the refrigerator. "I'm leaving. Don't call me." He jogged upstairs to their bedroom. His phone charged on the dresser. Unplugging it, the screen lit up. He called her. It went to voicemail. "Damn it, don't be an idiot. Come home." He hung up. Hungry, he got his wallet and keys. The truck fought to kick over in the cold. Years ago, when he had a snowplow business that started first try. Using it once a week to head into town, it fought him. When the wife entered the town, she used her car. The truck turned over. He wondered if he'd run into her at the diner. She wasn't stupid. She wouldn't do something like that. She let him be. The truck bumped down the driveway. It is best to keep the truck in the rut of tire tracks. He should have plowed this. It wasn't deep. Under the snow was dirt. Getting close to the gate, he slowed, not wanting to skid. He never hit the gate, but he'd gotten close. Emptiness filled his insides. Inside his chest, something missed. She'll come back. He got out of his truck, opened the gate, got in. Pulling beyond the gate, he stopped. Nothing felt right. She'll come back. He got out and closed the gate. Back in the warmth of the truck's cab, he felt the wrongness deeper. She'll come back. He started down the 2-lane highway. Halfway to the Starlight Diner, red and blue lights flashed. 2 police cars were parked on the side of the road. Pumping the brake, he drove around them. He maintained a gawking speed. Road flares guided him to the oncoming lane. Officers stood with hands in their pockets, talking. The obvious subject is a giant radius of blood. The circle covered 1 lane of the highway and an equal portion of snow. If the wife saw that on her way out of town, she wouldn't be back. He knew that mess had been a person. It didn't bother him. It was a color. Maroon on the street and the snow. Nothing more. Cars occupied all the parking spots in front of the Starlight Diner. He pulled to the side and found an open space. Entering from the side of the diner, he spotted a single open seat at the end of the counter. The snippets of conversation from the tables were a variation on a theme. "I bet you it was aliens," said the elderly hippie. "Werewolves," said the retired dairy farmer. "Sometimes people spontaneously combust. This area has," said the handyman to the waitress. At the counter, he got out his phone. He texted, "Can we talk?" He didn't notice the sheriff leaning against the counter next to him. The waitress approached. "What can I get you, officer?" "I need 3 black coffees to go, 2 light and sweet, 1 black." She headed for the coffee maker at the opposite end of the counter. "We need to talk," the sheriff said. "Okay. If you drove here, you saw it." "I did. I got a blood spatter that amounts to enough goo to be a human being, and it's on your property." "Is it?" "I can't tell if you're playing games with me, but don't. I know it's 150 acres. I've never had a reason to figure out the property lines. My grandfather and I walked it a few times before he departed. As for games, I've got nothing to hide." "You do any hunting on that chunk of land you're sitting on?" "I don't have a rocket launcher, if that's what you're implying. That's about the only thing that would do that, and you're welcome." "For what?" "I just solved your crime. Now go find someone with a rocket launcher. When you do, mail me my medal." "We're searching your property." "I assume your warrant's in order." "Don't need one. A dead body is probable cause." "What about all those other times this happened? You searched those people's homes?" "Why are you making this hard? Are you hiding something?" "I'm in the middle of a good start to a bad day." It's cold as a witch's tit out there, and I don't want to be trudging through the snow on your estate, me lord. So, if you know something, I'd prefer it if you told me now. All I know is you better not mess with my horses. Feel free to get lost on the property. Try not to freeze. If you do, keep away from the house. I don't want your stink around me. Where is the wife? I'd love to have a chat with her. The waitress returned with the coffee and bag. Can I borrow your pen? He took out his cell phone. She handed the coffees to the sheriff. She handed him a pen from her apron. He found his wife's number on his cell phone. He copied it to a napkin. He handed the pen back to the waitress. He slid the napkin to the sheriff. She's on a trip. Convenient. Finishing a breakfast of listening to guesses as to what killed people in Stonefield this time of year, he went home. No one knew what it was. He didn't bother speculating. He didn't want to hear dumb assumptions. All he wanted was her. The house was the same and different, and the kitchen. A frying pan was missing. In their closet, her sweaters were gone. In their bedroom dresser, her clothes were missing. Her cosmetics stayed. She hadn't worn makeup in years. He didn't give her much reason to. He dialed her phone, went to voicemail. There was no point in leaving another message. From the window, Ghost chased the other horses within the fence. Polaris and Ursula were brought to their stalls. Ghost, the lone horse in the field, waited at the gate. The man led him to the barn. Inside, Ghost neighed as the man loaded the saddle on his back. The horse's false angst was his way of manipulating the man to stroke his neck. It's okay, buddy, he said. The horse nodded his neck. It's just us now. The man put a foot into a stirrup and climbed onto the saddle. The man clicked his tongue twice, gave Ghost a nudge with his legs, and they exited the barn. Heading for the house, they turned down a trail into the woods. Unable to see under the snow, Ghost took cautious steps. They came to a trail where Ghost smelled urine, feces, and something familiar. The man's legs tensed. Ghost followed the small hoof prints of a deer herd. Something like dog filled his nostrils. At a frozen creek, the man pulled on the reins. Ghost slowed. The bulk of the tracks made it across. There was a crater in the snow. A single set of hoofprints ran from it, following the creek. Ghost, look, the man said. Coyote prints. They followed the creek until it sloped downward. Raw meat filled the air. Ghost's ears made semicircles. Searching. Whoa, the man said with his breath. He drew back on the reins. Ghost felt a tug. He halted. A pack of coyotes circled a fresh kill. Their faces stained cardinal. Some tore at the meat. Others laid in the snow, panting. They faced the open rib cage of the fallen deer. There was a gentle pull on the side of his mouth. Ghost didn't move. Primitive parts of Ghost's brain told him fear. The pull in the mouth has returned. Ghost didn't move. He knew these dogs were killers. Come on, it's okay. The man rubbed his neck along his mane. The tug was back in his mouth. Ghost turned. Walking away, Ghost angled his body, keeping the coyotes in his field of vision. There was a stop at a McDonald's in Connecticut. It divided the 5-hour plus ride from Long Island to Vermont into halves. The mother didn't want to stop there. It would mess up her diet. The daughter wanted her favorite food. The father told the mother they'd burn the calories skiing, and when the daughter slept. The daughter asked, "How can you burn calories when I sleep?" "We might go for a walk outside or something," the mother said. On the way to the cabin in Stonefield, they had to stop and pick up the keys. The owner was staying with his family at a farm west of Stonefield. They had already paid through Airbnb. In the driveway to the farmhouse, the father texted they were outside. He got out of the car and trotted to the front door. He rang the bell. The owner, a tall, lean, bald man, opened the door. Handing him the keys, the owner said, "Do yourself a favor. Don't park under the sugar maple. You'll get sap on your car, and Ralph is likely to crap on the hood." "Ralph?" the father said. "He's the quill pig who lives in the burrow under the hemlock. If you get up in the morning and there are coffee beans frozen to your car, it means Ralph had a midnight snack. The house is surrounded by sugar maples and hemlocks. It's the perfect storm for porcupines." "I know nothing about trees. Which one is the sugar maple?" "Okay, city boy," the man smirked. "Park near the Christmas trees." "Thanks." "Have fun." The owner closed the door. The father was halfway to the car when the owner called to him. The father returned to the door. The owner said, "A friend of mine texted me earlier. Real important. Not that you'd have reason to, but do not put trash outside." "Bears?" "No, they're hibernating. My friend says he's seen wolves. I'll tell you, they're not wolves. They're coyotes, and they're wicked little bastards. They look like small wolves. Wolves are endangered, and there may be 100 of them in Vermont. Coyotes are all over the goddamn place. They're afraid of humans, so you won't see them. But if you leave trash out on the porch, they'll get brave in the middle of the night and make a mess." The plowed road to the cabin was a mix of dirt and white. The sky had gone from clear to gray. The car's headlights caught descending flurries. Potholes rattled the passengers. At the end of the road, they parked between the house and the pine trees. The place was more of a home than a cabin. The father expected something more rustic. The mother expected logs along the exterior, not flat beams. The daughter was too young to expect anything. Not that looks mattered. They'd gotten it for a steal. The owner listed it as 30 minutes to the closest ski mountain. The parents were excited by the idea of how much fun their daughter would have skiing. They'd wake up early. They'd find a place to eat. They'd head to the mountain. They'd rent skis. They'd set up the daughter with classes on the bunny slope. They'd leave her and go skiing with each other. They'd get her around lunch and eat. They'd take her up the mountain if she was ready. They'd planned it for the last month. Inside, the mother said, "It's cozy." "You can say it. It's small. That's okay. After all, it's not the size of the cabin, but what you do with it," the father said. Every man with a small cabin. It has a fireplace. "Can I have my tablet now?" the daughter said. "Don't you want to have a look around the place we're staying in?" the mother said. "No. We'll have to unpack first." The tablet was in a suitcase. The father didn't want her playing with it for the ride. Her viewing the landscape outside of Long Island and New York City was important to him. She'd never seen anything else. They brought their luggage in. They left for the Starlight. According to Google, it was the closest place to eat. Around 5:30, night had fallen. Finished eating, they'd headed back to the cabin. In the driveway, he traced the car's tracks to the cabin, almost to the house. He pumped the brakes. "Look," the father said. "That's Ralph." "I see you've been introduced," the mother said. "The porcupine, not a limb of the sugar maple above the home." The father turned, facing the back seat. The daughter focused on her tablet. "Look," he said. When she didn't react, he continued. "Pause the game for a second and look up." "What?" the daughter said. "Look, in the tree. That's Ralph, the porcupine I was telling you about." "Oh, okay." She returned to her game. "I wish I had cute animals to see when I was growing up," the mother said. "I'm about to beat this level," the daughter said. The father got out of the car. He opened the rear door for the daughter. Ralph stopped nibbling and observed the humans. "Watch where you're going. You don't want to slip and hurt yourselves or break your tablet." The mother closed her door. The daughter didn't look up from the tablet. Inside the cabin, they realized how cold it was. When they first arrived, they didn't notice the heat was off. The difference between the exterior and interior was wind chill. "We need some heat in here," the father said. He went through each room twice, searching the walls for a thermostat. He paused at the mantel above the fireplace. A stack of Amazon delivery boxes awaited flame on one side of the brick hearth. Kindlings and logs rested on the opposite side. He knelt on the brick. As he ripped the first boxes to pieces, the mother said, "What are you doing?" "Building a fire. It'll warm this place faster than turning up the thermostat that I can't find." On the couch, the daughter tapped her tablet. "Baby," the mother said, "pause that." She looked up from her screen. "What?" "First off, don't talk to me like that. Secondly, this is important. Daddy is making a fire, and I need you to stay away from the fireplace, okay?" She nodded. Done ripping one box into strips, he started on another. "Stop that," the father said. "Stop what?" the mother said. "Hey, kid, stop it." "Stop what?" the daughter said. "The humming." "I'm not humming. How can I talk and hum at the same time?" His eyelids closed tight. Crow's feet gathered between his eyes and temples. His mouth open, baring his teeth. He fell over onto his side. An ah sound, like a tea kettle responding to agony, emanated from the back of his throat. "It hurts so much," the father said. The mother got on her knees next to him. He rocked in the fetal position. "What's the matter?" "What can I do?" she said. "I don't know," he screamed. The daughter stopped playing her game. "Mommy, is everything okay?" "Everything will be fine." "Can you get Mommy her phone from the bedroom?" "Why?" "Now is not the time to ask why. You are 7 years old. You are the child, and I am an adult. Now go." The daughter took the tablet with her as she ran. Suffering sounds came from the father. He said, "Turn off the lights. The light in my eyes is so painful." "Is this a migraine?" "I don't know." The daughter returned. "Here," she extended the phone to her mother. "Sit on the couch." "Help," the father said. The father seized. The daughter stood by the couch watching. The mother turned her phone on. As she pressed 9, the father exploded into a cloud of blood. With the horses fed and running in the pasture, and my morning routine finished, I headed for the house. Halfway there, a police cruiser came down my road. Since the first time he gave me a speeding ticket, to dancing around accusing me of murder, I've always thought the sheriff was a jackass. The cruiser parked between me and the house. The sheriff and another officer got out of my car. They both have their jackets open. Kind of funny on a morning when it's 15 degrees out. I never pegged the sheriff for smart. They approached, both with a hand on their holstered guns. Can we talk a minute? The sheriff says. I was planning on having breakfast. Do you know Annabelle Moonstar Baker? That rings no bells. What about Ira David Stern? I can't say I've heard of him either. Get to your point, I'm hungry. They're both dead. And do you know what they have in common? Yeah, I do. The sheriff and his idiot deputy waited for me to answer. Ghost gallops to the fence, slowing. He trots to a circle. He trots in a circle. He's curious. He's a smart horse. Well, what do they have in common, the sheriff says. As you said, they're both dead. They have that in common. The deputy snorts, holding in a laugh. No, smartass. They died next to or on your property. The first person, the woman, that was yesterday morning? Yeah, we identified her by the cell phone we found because everything else was Manhattan clam chowder. Ghost and I found a deer killed by a coyotes on the creek. I don't think he was a flatlander. Likely he was from Maine or New Hampshire. I don't remember seeing anyone else on my property. No, Nathaniel Corey owns a cabin southwest of this shithole you call a farm, and I didn't say the second victim was from out of state. If Corey owns it, then it's not on my property. I got nothing against Jews, but with a name like Ira David Stern, he's not from here. Where were you last night? Where was I? I was here watching Law and Order Special Victims Unit on Hulu. The cold is getting to him. A hunger for sausage and toast is getting to me. Really? What happened on it? Finn and Olivia arrested a rapist. He got off on account of your mom choosing not to press charges. I realize I have gone too far. Turn around. What for? You're under arrest. On what charge? Murder. What? Turn around. Do you have any items on you that could be used as a weapon? Sheriff, for real? I see what happens to these people. How could I do that? How could any person do that? Do you have any items on you? No. Then turn around and put your goddamn hands on top of your head with your fingers interlocking each other. I do as he says. My phone is inside the house. There is no one for me to call. She won't answer. One of them pats me down from behind, cuffing me. The deputy starts the "You have the right to remain silent" speech. I know everything he's about to say from watching Law and Order reruns. In the back of the cruiser, I wonder about where we're going. The idea of the future is getting to me. I picture myself in an orange jumpsuit, tattooed hard cases around me. False arrests happen all the time in the U.S. They even do it on the TV. Could I put up a fight if I went to prison? Jackass, the deputy says. What? I spent all of yesterday trying to get your wife on the phone. You think she answered? She just left me. She probably doesn't want to be bothered. Did you try texting her? He answers me by facing forward and breathing. They get on the main highway and take me to the police station in Bury. Pulling behind the building, they park in a lot for cruisers. Despite missing breakfast, I feel like my stomach is full of stones. Inside of the station is painted a puke pastel color. They take me to a beige room with no windows. Doesn't even have a mirror. The kind of mirror the cops watch you on the other side of. The kind they have on every cop show. Here, they have cameras. They take off my cuffs and leave. My first thought is about her. Where is she? What is she doing? Would she ever answer her damn phone? I don't think there's anyone else. When would she have found the time to step out on me? We spent most of our time together. Our home was our place, and she left me in such a backstabbing way. Without warning, she was gone. What is taking these bastards so long? The horses were in the field. What could happen to them? If the coyotes showed up, the horses, while in a large fenced-in area, were still fenced in. When I saw the coyotes, I should have gotten my rifle and killed those shithounds. After 2 or 3 hours, the sheriff and a guy with a thick neck wearing a suit come into the room. The suit had a yellow legal pad tucked under one arm. He introduces himself as Detective Something. He shakes my hand. He says he wants to ask me some questions. They sit across from me. As I told the sheriff before, I've got nothing to hide. I consent to you doing a full search of my home and property. I ask that you videotape that search, as I don't trust the sheriff. Detective Something clears his throat. You're facing serious charges. You're sure you don't want your attorney present? In the state of Vermont, first-degree murder carries a minimum 25-year sentence, meaning unless there are special circumstances, 25 years is the least amount of time you'll be locked up for, and that's if you cooperate. I've done nothing wrong, so what do I need a lawyer for? Tell me what you know about the murders of Annabelle Moonstar Baker and Ira David Stern, the sheriff said. Nothing. I've heard those names for the first time today. What do you know about how they died? I drove past a mess of blood on the highway to get breakfast. This other guy I know nothing about. I assume he died the same way as the woman. Why do you make that assumption? The detective says. What would connect the two crimes? This is the 4th year in a row it's happened. Always in late January. People are found ripped to shreds or exploding for no reason. I don't get why it happens, but it happens. I guess not everything happens for a reason we can understand. What about your wife? Do you know where she is? The detective jots notes. She left. I don't know where she is. She isn't responding to my calls or text. If you get in touch with her on the phone, she'll tell you. She was with me the night before. Did you have a fight? No. We had a disagreement. No shouting or cursing or nothing. I didn't want to leave the farm or the horses. She didn't want to stay. She didn't think it was safe. I was worried about the horses. They need to be brought in before dark. I don't want them freezing to death because the sheriff is grabbing at straws. We'll call Animal Control Services and work something out. I want to help you. Understand. I want to get to the truth. That's the goal I'm working toward. For me to help you, you have to be honest with me. Do you know where your wife is? We'd like to know so we can set you free. That makes 2, maybe 3 of us who want to know where she is. That is, depending upon if the sheriff is looking for justice or arrested me due to a crack I made. The sheriff smirks and raises his eyebrow. I want to punch his smug face. Why don't you guys use the GPS in my wife's cell phone to find her? You can do that, right? For what feels like hours, the detective keeps asking me questions. Then he asks me the same questions a second time around, and a third. His words get short, his questions get quicker. I feel like I'm upsetting him because I have an answer for everything, but no alibi. Imagine my horses, frozen, dead in the snow. They keep telling me they'll get to calling animal control. My stomach makes bubbling noises. They keep telling me they'll get to bringing me food that never comes. Look, sir, a vein ticks over the detective's eyes. I'm trying to help you, but you gotta give me something. I've told you everything like 4 times now. Tell you what, let's go over everything 50 more times and we'll see if my story changes. Come on. I'm worried my horses are gonna die. Track my wife's cell phone. You guys can do that. I might be old, but that doesn't mean I'm technologically stupid. The detective stands. Can I talk to you? He and the sheriff leave. I have no idea what time it is. I feel like it's getting dark out. In my mind's eye, frost edges in on Ghost's eyes as his corpse solidifies. The detective enters. You're free to go. What? Why? There's been a similar death in the middle of the town with a dozen witnesses. Who was it? Alice Cummings? My shoulders drop, shaking my head. I saw her yesterday. She let me use her pen to give the sheriff my wife's phone number. Man, that's a shame. She started screaming in the middle of her shift, and you know the rest. I don't mean to seem indifferent, but I need to get home before my horses are popsicles. Call Uber. You said you were tech-savvy, old-timer. That's wicked unfair. You dragged me up here on a load of bullshit, and now I have to shell out for a ride? I stand and stretch. My joints pop as I rotate my shoulders. Give me a minute. The detective leaves. The door closes before I can get to the handle. I'm stuck in this stupid little room. Come on, guys. Let me out of here. The cameras withhold reaction. I think about the waitress at the diner. We never had a deep conversation, but she was a person I knew, now gone. What did it mean? Why was she dead? Why do any of us die? My back hurt. Sitting down would take too much effort to get up. I pace. I'm sure I faded my path into the floor from circling back and forth. The detective opens the door. He's holding the keys against the knob. Come on, I'm giving you a ride. I was wrong about the time. It wasn't dark out. It was around 5:15. The sun was low in the sky. The horses should be okay. Unhappy and chilled, but okay. That sheriff is a jackass, I said as we got on the highway. Did you find her? Who? The detective. The detective's road hypnosis is broken. My wife. Did you find her? Yeah, we talked. Where is she? She doesn't want you to know. I didn't hit her or nothing. She said as much. I didn't want to risk whatever is happening in the town happening to her. She didn't want to risk whatever is happening in the town happening to her. That's why she booked. She said that too. Do you know what is killing people? He signaled and pulled into the left lane. He was going 15 miles over the speed limit. In the southwest, the sun prepared to kiss the horizon. We don't know what's happening. The FBI is involved. Do they think it's a serial killer? Don't repeat this. I won't. They got no clue of what the fuck is happening. This masshole from Boston is heading up the investigation. I'm sure you've heard everything from aliens to ghosts to a psychic with a chip on his shoulder to Bigfoot putting people through a wood chipper. But for the last 4 years, over a couple days at the end of January, they don't know what it is. It just happens. No rhyme, no reason. That's how death is. It happens. And we have no control over it. This time around, the first 2 people are Flatlanders. Isn't that a clue? The waitress was born and raised in Stonefield. Hell, New Hampshire was exotic to her, and she lived 20 minutes from the border, bringing us back to no pattern. But why is it happening? I can't tell you much. It's an ongoing investigation. Arguably, I've said too much. We pass signs for the upcoming Stonefield exit. He gets in the right lane. It's dark out when we turn down the driveway. The horses are waiting at the gate. Getting out of the car, I thank the detective and head to the barn. He turns the car around and tears ass out of my driveway. I open the barn doors. Inside, I get the heat on. I get a lead. Ghost is the first to his stall. I get his blanket on him. He nudges me with his head. He's hungry, cold, and ticked off. None of them are happy with me. They chow down on their food. One of them stops eating, sputters, then drinks. I'm lightheaded from not eating. Inside, I hang my keys and jacket on the hook by the front door. I keep my boots on. Who will complain if the floor is dirty? In the kitchen, I make toast and microwave some sausage. I'm too hungry to wait for real food. With the sausage finished cooking, I take it from the microwave. On another plate, I prep bacon and paper towels. It goes into the microwave. With the microwave counting down, I wash my hands. Eating the toast and sausage gives my hunger enough of a break to stop hawking the cooking bacon. I grab the orange juice from the refrigerator. I chug it from the carton. The sugar in the orange juice cures my headache. Why are these people dead? They have nothing in common. What does it mean? I study the pencil marks on the door frame between the kitchen and the den. In graphite, I see my father's height from adolescence to adulthood. I can see where I grew on the frame as well. Our initials racing upwards. I have no children to compete with my height. All recorded in pencil on painted wood. A history ending with me. The microwave beeps. I head upstairs to our bedroom. There are gaps in the closet where her clothes used to be. There's an emptiness in the dresser drawers where she kept her jeans and underthings. I took my phone off the dresser. I texted. Words you'll never hear me say. You're right and I'm wrong. You know what? You are and I am. There. I said it. Without you, the house is just a place. So what if I grew up here? So what if I have the pride of calling this place my ancestral home? That's some old New England bullshit. Right up there with hating New York flatlanders because they bought all the ski slopes and drove up the taxes. This place isn't my home. You know where my home is? My home is with you. Right now, I consider myself homeless. I guess your mother was right. I am a bum. Ha. Tonight, I'm staying in Corinth. Tomorrow, I'll get the horses boarded. Where I'm staying out of town, I'm staying out of town until February. Maybe we should sell the farm. I'm tired of Stonefield, murders or not. Everything is less without you. I'm an idiot. Had a crisis today, and I was thinking about Ghost. You know what Ghost will do for me if everything falls apart? He sure isn't going to post my bail or tell the cops I'm innocent. Sorry this was so long. I love you. It took me being an idiot to see what was important. You are important. My thumb hovers over send. A line from a book I read in high school comes to me. A moment's courage and it is done. I can remember the line, but not the book. I push send. It's an old phone, and long messages take a moment to upload. Downstairs, the microwave beeps. It's time to go. I slip my phone into my pocket. I get my wallet off the dresser. She gave it to me for my 34th birthday. It was gray, worn, and dirty, but it was something she'd given me. I put on my jacket. take the truck keys from the hook by the front door. I don't bother zipping it, locking the front door to keep critters out. No person is going to come here. The wind picks up. Halfway to my truck, a text alert sounds. I take the phone from my pocket. It's her. Humming fills my ears.